The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. The seductive character, the Siren. A man is often secretly oppressed by a role he has to play, by always having the responsibility, in control, and rationale. The Siren is the ultimate male fantasy figure because she often is in total release from the limitations of his life. In her presence, which is always heightened and sexually charged, the male feels transported to a realm of pure pleasure. In a world where women are often too timid to project such an image, learn to take control of your male libido by the embodying of his fantasy. The Rake. The woman never quite feels desired and appreciated enough. She wants attention, but a man is too often distracted and unresponsive. The Rake is a great female fantasy figure. When he deceives a woman, when he desires a woman, brief thought that the moment may be, he will go to the ends of the earth for her. He may be disloyal, dishonest, and immoral, but that only adds to his appeal. Stir a woman's repressed longings by adapting the Rake's mix of danger and pleasure. The ideal lover. Most people have dreams in their youth that get shattered or worn down with age, and they find themselves disappointed by people, events, realities, which cannot match their youthful ideas. Well, ideal lovers thrive on people's broken dreams, which become lifelong fantasies. You long for romance, adventure, lofty spiritual communion. The ideal lover reflects your fantasy. He or she is an artist in creating the illusion you require. In a world of disenchantment and baseness, there's a limitless seductive power in the following path of the ideal lover. The dandy. Most of us feel trapped within the limit roles that the world expects us to play, and we are constantly attracted to those who are more fluid than we are, those who create their own persona. Dandies excite us because they cannot be categorized. It's a hint at freedom we want for ourselves. They play with a masculinity and a femininity that they fashion their own physical image, which is always startling. Use the power of dandy to create an ambiguous, alluring presence that stirs repressed desires. The natural. Childhood is the golden paradise we are always unconscious or unconsciously trying to recreate. The natural embodies the longed-for qualities of childhood: spontaneity, sincerity, unprestigiousness. In the presence of naturals, we feel at ease, caught up in the playful spirit, transported back to the golden age. Adopt the pose of the natural and neutralize people's defensiveness and infect them with helpful delight. The coquette. The coquette. The ability to delay satisfaction is the ultimate art of seduction. The ability to delay satisfaction. While waiting, the victim is held in thrall. Conquett's the grand master of the game, orchestrating a back and forth movement between hope and frustration. The bait with the promise of reward. The hope of physical pleasure, happiness, fame by association. Power of all which, however, proves elusive. Yet, this only makes their targets pursue them more. Imitate the alternating heat and coolness of the conquête, and you will keep the seduced at your heels. The charmer. Charm is a seduction without sex. Charmers are consummated manipulators, masking their cleverness by creating a mood of pleasure and comfort. Their method is simple. They defeat attention by themselves and focus it on their target. They understand your spirit, feel your pain, adapt to your moods. In the presence of a charmer, you feel better about yourself. Learn to cast the charmer's spell by aiming at people's primary weaknesses, which is their vanity and self-esteem. Charismatic. Charisma is the presence that excites us. It comes from an inner quality of self-confidence, sexual energy, sense of purpose, contentment. The most people lack it and want it. This quality radiates outwards, permeating in gestures of charismatic, making them seem extraordinary and superior. They learn to heighten their charisma with a piercing gaze, a fierce oratory, an air of mystery. Create the charismatic illusion by radiating intensity while remaining detached. The star. The star. Daily life is harsh, and most of us are constantly seeking to escape it from fantasies and dreams. Stars feed on this weakness. Standing out from others through a distinctive and appealing style, they make us want to watch them. At the same time, they are vague and ethereal, keeping their distance and letting us imagine more than is there. Their dreamlike quality works in our conscious. Learn to become an object of fascination by projecting the glittering but elusive presence of the star. Anti-Seducer. Seducers draw you in by the focused, individualized attention they pay to you. Anti-seducers are the opposite, insecure, self-absorbed, and unable to grasp the psychology of another person. They are literally repel. Anti-seducers have no self-awareness, and they never realize when they are pestering, imposing, talking too much. Root out anti-seductive qualities in yourself and recognize them in others. There's no pleasure or profit in dealing with the anti-seducer. The seducer's victims, the 18 types. The seductive process. Number 1, choose the right victim. Everything depends on the target of your seduction. Study your prey thoroughly. Choose only who will prove susceptible to your charm. The right victims are the ones whom can fill a void, who see in something exotic. They are often isolated or unhappy, or can easily be made so. For the completely contented person, it is almost impossible to seduce. The perfect victim has a quality that inspires strong emotions in you, making your seductive maneuvers seem more natural and dynamic. The perfect victim allows for the perfect chase. Choose the right victim. Number 2, create a false sense of security. Approach indirectly. If you are too directly early on, you risk stirring up a resistance that will never be lowered. And at the first, there must be nothing of a seducer in your manner. There should be nothing at first of a seducer in your manner. The seduction should begin at an angle, indirectly, so that the target is gradually becomes aware of you. Haunt the peripheral at your target's life. Approach through a third party, or seem to cultivate a relatively neutral relationship, moving gradually from friend to lover. Lull the target into feeling secure, then strike. Number 3, send mixed signals. Once people are aware of your presence and perhaps vaguely intrigued, you need to stir their interest before it settles on someone else. Most of us are much too obvious. Instead, be hard to figure out. Send mixed signals, both tough and tender, both spiritual and earthly, both innocent and cunning. A mix of qualities suggests depth. Mix fascinates even in the confuses. Mixes fascinate even if it confuses. An elusive, enigmatic aura will also make people want to know more, drawing them into a circle. Create such a power by hinting at something contradictory within you. Appear to be an object of desire. Create triangles. Few of us are drawn to a person who others avoid or neglect. People gather around those who have already attracted interest. To draw your victims closer and make them hungrier to possess you, you must create an aura of desirability, of being wanted and courted by many. It will have to become a point of vanity for them to be preferred an object of your attraction, to win you away from the crowd of admirers. Build a reputation that precedes you. If you have succumbed to your charms, there must be a reason. Number 5, create a need, stir anxiety and discontent. A perfectly satisfied person cannot be seduced. Tension and disharmony must be instilled in your target's mind. Still within the feelings of discontent and unhappiness with their circumstances, with themselves, the feeling of inadequacy gives you the space to insinuate yourself, to make them see you as the answer to your problems. Pain and anxiety are proper precursors to pleasure. Learn to manufacture the need that you can feel. Master the art of insinuation. Number 6. Master the art of insinuation. Making your targets feel dissatisfied and in need of your attention is essential. But if you are too obvious, then they will see right through and grow defensive. There is no known defense, however, against insinuation. The art of planting ideas in people's minds by dropping elusive hints takes root days later, even appearing to them as their own ideas, creating a sub-language, bold statements following by retracted apologies or ambiguous comments or banal talk, combined with alluring glances that enters the target's unconsciousness to convey your real meaning. Make everything suggestive. Number 7, enter their spirit. Most of us are locked in our own worlds, making them stubborn and hard to persuade. The way to lure out of their shell and set up a seduction is to enter their spirit. Play by their rules, enjoy what they enjoy, adapt yourself to their moods. In doing so, you will stroke up a deep-rooted narcissism and a lowering their defenses. Indulge your targets, every mood and whim, giving them nothing to react against or resist. Number 8, create temptation. Lure the target deep into a seduction by creating a proper temptation, a glimpse of pleasure to come. As the serpent tempted Eve with the promise of forbidden knowledge, you must be aware of the desires in your targets that they cannot control. Find the weakness of theirs, their fantasy, and that yet it be realized, the hint that you can lead them around or lead them towards it. The key is to keep it vague. Stimulate a curiosity stronger than the doubts and anxieties that go with it, and they will follow you. Create a temptation. Phase 2, lead astray, creating pleasure and confusion. Number 9, keep them in suspense. What comes next? The moment feel that they know what to expect from you, then your spell on them is broken. More, you have ceded from power. And the only way to lead your seduction along is to keep them upper hand, is to create a suspense or a calculated surprise. Doing something they do not expect from time will give them the delightful sense of spontaneity. They will not be able to foresee what comes next. You are always one step ahead and in control. Give the victim a thrill with a sudden change of direction. Keep them in suspense of what comes next. Number 10, use the demonic power of the words to sow confusion. It's hard to make people listen. They are consumed with their own thoughts and desires, and they have little time for yours. The trick to making people to listen is to say what they want to hear, to fill their ears with whatever is pleasant to them. This is the essence of seductive language. Inflame people's emotions with loaded phrases. Flatter them, comfort their insecurities. Envelope them in sweet words of promises. And not only will you listen to you, but they will lose their will to resist you. Number 11, pay attention to detail. Lofty words of love and grand gestures can be suspicious. Why are you trying so hard to please? The details of seduction, the subtle gestures, the offhand things you do are often more charming and revealing. You must learn to distract your victims with a myriad of pleasure little rituals, thoughtful gifts tailored just for them, clothes, adornments designed to please them, gestures that show the time of attention that you are paying them. Mesmerized by what they see, they will not notice what you are really up to. Pay attention to detail. Number 12, poeticize your presence. Important things happen when the targets are alone. The slightest feel of relief that you are not there, it is all over. Familiarity and overexposure will cause this reaction. Remain elusive then. Intrigue your targets by alternating an exciting presence with a cool distance. Exuberate moments followed by calculated absences. Associate yourself with poetic images and objects so that when they think of you, they begin to see you through an idealized halo. The more you figure in their minds, the more it's likely will envelope you in a seductive fantasy. Number 13, disarm through strategic weakness and vulnerability. Too much maneuvering on your part may raise suspicion. The best way is to cover your tracks is to make the other person feel superior or stronger. If you seem to be weak, vulnerable, and enthralled by the other person, it's unable to control yourself, you'll make your actions look more natural or less calculated. Physical weakness, tears, bashfulness, paleseness will help create the effect. Bashfulness, helpfulness. Play the victim, then transform your target's sympathy into love. 14. Confuse desire and reality. The perfect illusion. To compensate for the difficulties in their lives, people spend a lot of their time daydreaming, imagining a full future adventure of success and romance. If you can create that illusion that through you and they can live in their own dreams, then you'll have them at your mercy. If you can create an illusion that through you they can live out their dreams, you'll have them at your mercy. Aim at wishes that have been thwarted or suppressed, stirring an uncontrollable emotion, clouding their powers of reason. Lead the seduced to point out confusion in which they can no longer tell differences between illusion and reality. 15. Isolate the victim. An isolated person is weak. By isolating your victims, you make them more vulnerable to your influence. Take them away from your normal milieu, friends, family, home. Give them a sense of being marginalized in limbo. They are leaving one world behind and entering another. Once isolated like this, they have no outside support, and in their confusion, they are easily led astray. Lure the seduced into your lair where nothing is familiar. Phase 3, the precipice, deepening the effort through extreme measures. 16, prove yourself. Most people want to be seduced if they resist your efforts. It is probably because you have not gone far enough to allay their doubts about your motives, the depth of your feelings, and on. Well, one-timed action shows how far you are willing to go and to win them over with the spell of their doubts. Do not worry about looking foolish and making a mistake. Any kind of deed that is self-sacrificing and for your target's sake will no overwhelm their emotions. They won't notice anything else. Prove yourself. 17. Effect and Regression. People who have experienced a certain kind of pleasure in the past will try to repeat or relive it. The deepest rooted and the most pleasurable memories are usually those of the earliest childhood and are often unconsciously associated with a parental figure. Bring your targets back to that point of placing yourself in an Oedipal triangle and positioning them into a needy child. Unaware of the cause of their emotional response, they will fall in love with you. Effective regression. Stir up transgressive and taboo. There are always social limits on what one can do. Some of the most elemental taboos go back centuries. Others are more superficial, simply defining polite and acceptable behavior, making your targets feel that they are leading their past either kind of limit or immensely undestructive. People yearn to explore their dark side. Once you desire to transgress draws your targets to you, it will be hard for them to stop, taking them farther than they've imagined. They shared feeling of a guilt and a complicity with the creative, and it will create a powerful bond. 19. Use spiritual lures. Everything has doubts and insecurities about their body, their self-worth, their sexuality. If your seduction appeals exclusively to physical, you will stir up these doubts and make your target self-conscious. Instead, lure them on their insecurities by making them focus on something sublime and spiritual, a religious experience, a lofty work of art, the occult, lost in spiritual mist. The target will feel light and uninhibited. Deepen the efforts of your seduction by making it a sexual culmination, seem like the spiritual union of two souls. 20. Mix pleasure and pain. The greatest mistake in seduction is being too nice. At first, perhaps, your kindness is charming, but it soon grows monotonous. You are trying too hard to please and seem insecure. Instead of overwhelming your targets with niceness, then try inflicting some pain. Make them feel guilty or insecure. Investigate a breakup now or a reapproach to return to an earlier kindness. Will turn them weak and on their knees. The lower the lows you create, the greater the highs, the heighten the exotic charge. Create the excitement of fear. Phase 4. Moving in for the kill. 21. Give them space to fall. The pursuer is pursued. If your targets become too used to you at the aggressor, they will give less of their own energy and tension will shaken. You'll need to make them up, turn the tables. Once you are under your spell, take a step back and they will start to come after you. Hint that you are growing bored. Seem interested in someone else. Soon they will want to possess you physically, and strength will go out the window. Create the illusion that the seducer is being seduced. Number 2, use physical lures. Targets with active minds are dangerous. If they see through the manipulations, they are suddenly developing doubts. Put their minds gently to rest and rake in their dormant senses by combining a non-defensive attitude with a charged sexual presence. While your cool and nonchalant air is lowering the inhibitions, your glances, voice, and bearing oozing sex and desire are getting under their skins and raising their temperatures. Never force the physical, instead infect your targets with heart, heat. Lure them into lust, morality, judgment, concern for the future will all melt away. Use physical lures. Master the art of bold move. A moment has arrived. Your victim clearly desires you, but it's not ready to admit it openly. Let's alone act on it. This is the time for you to now set aside chivalry, kindness, and conquetity, overwhelmingness with a bold move. Don't give to the victim's time to consider the consequences. Showing hesitation is an awkwardness, and it means that you're thinking of yourself as opposed to being overwhelmed by the victim's charms. One person must go on the offensive, and it is you. Beware the after effects. 24. Beware the after effects. Danger follows in the aftermath of successful seduction. After emotion has reached a pitch, they often swing in the opposite direction towards lassitude, distrust, disappointment. If you are to part, make sure the sacrifice is swift and sudden. If you are to stay in the relationship, be aware of flaggering of energy. Creeping familiarity, it will spoil the fantasy. A second seduction is required. Never let the other person take you for granted. Use obscure, create pain and conflict to keep them seduced on tender hooks. Choose the right victim. Create a false sense of security and approach him directly. Send mixed signals. Appear to be the object of desire. Create triangles. Create a need, stir anxiety and discontent. Master the art of insinuation. Enter their spirit. Create temptation. Create them in suspense with what comes next. Use the demonic power of words to sow confusion. Pay attention to detail. Poeticize your presence. Disarm through a strategic weakness and vulnerability. Confuse desire and reality. The perfect illusion. Isolate the victim. Prove yourself. Effect and regression. Stir up the transgressive taboo. Use spiritual lures. Mix pleasure and pain. Give them space to fall. The pursuer is pursued. Use the physical lures. Master the art of the bold move. And beware of the after effects. Get what? The seduction. Get what you want in a manipulation of everyone's greatest weakness, the desire for pleasure. Seduction is the most subtle, elusive, and effective form of power. It is evident in John F. Kennedy's hold over the masses and the Cleopatra's hold over the autonomy. Now the author of the bestseller 48 Laws of Power has written a handbook-synthesized class classic. Seduction. Failures of the characters throughout history. That once again, Robert Greene identifies the rules of timeless, amoral game that explores the case to cast and break the spell and break down resistance and ultimately compel a target to surrender. The Art of Seduction takes you through the characters and the qualities of your 10 archetype figures in seduction, including the Siren, ideal lover, dandy, the natural, the charismatic, the star, the 24 maneuvers from which anyone can overcome a victim's futile resistance to the practice of the devastating and timeless art form. Every bit of essential as the 48 Laws of Power, the Art of Seduction is an indispensable primer and persuasion that reveals one of his own greatest weapons and ultimate form of power, seduction.